We're going to talk now to Andrew Tettenborn, academic and political commentator in The Spectator. He's got a piece in the Mail today, actually, as well. But let's talk to him about this situation around the hotels in Epping. Dan Jarvis, who is, of course, a minister in this government, has said for the first time, well, of course, we're looking at a range of different contingency options following from a legal ruling that took place yesterday, and we will look closely at what we are able to do. But as I say, the bigger picture challenge is the one that we are dealing with. So they don't really know what to do. It seems to me the government are completely and utterly clueless because they've been sort of sideswiped by this ruling from the High Court. You would think that they knew it was coming. Apparently they tried to make an objection to it late yesterday, just before the case actually came before the judge. So they couldn't even organise to get themselves a proper case to put together so that they could convince the judge that he was going to maybe make a mistake. And instead, they're now sort of up the creek without a paddle, for want of a better phrase. Andrew, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks very much for joining us. This has really taken the government by surprise, which it shouldn't have done, but it seems to me they don't know what to do about it.
Well, I think that's right, because the really embarrassing thing is that the government are banged to rights here, to use a 1950s expression.
Yes, we like those here at the Morning Glory.
If you get planning permission for a hotel, that doesn't amount to getting planning permission for a displaced persons camp,
yes,
which essentially is what the government's been trying to do. Now, what's also interesting is the way this has caught the government completely on the hop. They've known for a week, 10 days, that this proceeding, that this action was being brought. Presumably they thought, oh, well, the judge will find some way of getting rid of it. It was only when somebody presumably phoned them and said, well, the decision might go against the hotel, that they finally got their finger out and tried to intervene at the last minute,
yes,
which didn't impress the judge. Now, what this is going to do is to put a small bomb under the government's policies, because up until now, frankly, the government's policy has been to do very little apart from spend more and more money on putting people in asylum hotels. If you look, what they've done is they've said to their left wing, look, guys, don't worry, we really love asylum seekers, we're not going to do anything serious. And they've then gone to White Van Man and said, oh, well, we're going to smash the gangs, we're going to enter into some sort of performative agreement with Emmanuel Macron in France, which actually means very, very little.
Yes.
Now they are actually going to have to pull their finger out, and obviously they're particularly worried. They're absolutely spooked.
Right, because they don't have a clue. Because, I mean, now it appears, it certainly would seem that there's a legal precedent now in place, thanks to the High Court, that every single other migrant hotel similarly changed its use, similarly changed its kind of modus operandi, if you like, and it can no longer be categorised for planning purposes as a hotel.
Yeah, you're quite right. You're quite right. Well, at least one local authority has already said that it's going down the Epping route,
yes,
which is Broxbourne, near
yes, I've seen that, yeah.
London. We've got a statement from Nigel Farage, whose party, of course, now runs 12, I think it's 12 or something like that, local authorities, that they're all likely to do the same thing, and others could join them. You know, we've had protests from Scotland, Greater Manchester, Norfolk, you name it.
Yeah.
So this is a contagion that's likely to spread. Now, the government, well, Dan Jarvis said he's looking at the options. Well, one would have hoped that he'd done that several months ago. But it's certainly going to have to act quickly now, not only to find somewhere to put the asylum seekers who won't be able to stay in Epping, but to stem the flow. In the end, for example, to make it more difficult to join the black economy, to set up proper reception centres for asylum seekers, because the other problem is that in the Epping Hotel, the asylum seekers very often are very recent arrivals about whom we know very little. And
That's
of course,
the
the
thing.
French and the Germans are much more sensible, because they do actually have dedicated reception centres where you can sort out who can then be put into the community and who can't.
Yes. I mean, the interesting point now will be what happens next. As you say, Dan Jarvis has not really indicated that they have a clue what happens next, but presumably what they'd like to do, because they've said that this would be their policy anyway, is to move them out of the hotels and put them into private accommodation. But of course, we haven't got that level of private accommodation, so they've got a real problem here.
Well, that's exactly why I said they are going to have to do something and do it quickly.
Yes.
To stem the flow. This simply is unsustainable. And if one good thing has been done by this injunction, it's to make it clear that sitting on their hands and doing nothing won't do.
No. Funnily enough, which is Keir Starmer's favourite occupation, isn't it? Apart from, travelling backwards and forwards across, international date lines, anything that happens domestically, he rather likes it to kind of all go away if he just ignores it.
Well, I think the government's been behaving like a rabbit in the headlights for far too long here, and it's now actually going to have to think what to do.
Yes, and I mean, legally speaking, are they in a bind? Because if, for example, they attempt to, we spoke to a Portsmouth councillor yesterday who's discovered through the workings of the Freedom of Information request that there are 22 separate dwellings which are now being set aside for migrants in Portsmouth. Not one councillor was told about it. Not one individual was told about it. The government and the Home Office were trying to do it sort of under cover of darkness, if you like. Is there now so much scrutiny on the government and on this particular problem, the asylum seeker problem, that they won't be able to find houses? They won't be able to do it by stealth, and they may face opposition at every turn now.
I think they will. Of course, there is the nuclear option, which is emergency legislation, allowing them to override planning laws.
Right.
But that's simply going to make it make the government even more unpopular than it is. There are very few decent options available, actually, to Yvette Cooper here.
It really is a terrible situation they find themselves in, but it's a situation of their own making because, and I'm not going to give the Tories any room for manoeuvre here because they were just as bad.
Oh, you're quite right that both parties are equally guilty.
Yeah. But at least the Tories
very well have happened on the Tory watch.
Yes, but at least the Tories did in fact close down the Bell Hotel, and it was Labour who reopened it on the grounds that they needed to do it. And I'm being told that there are still hotels now being commissioned and set aside for migrant occupation in the future.
Well, no doubt there are. Of course, the other thing is that the government has, I think, outsourced quite a lot of the work here anyway.
Yeah.
It didn't want to get its hands dirty. My information is that a lot of the work has gone to some rather sort of peculiar Australian travel agency.
Oh, really? How
Yes.
bizarre! So, we know about Serco, and we know about some of the other organisations which are handling the sort of the registration of the migrants and the transportation of the migrants, and then the further accommodation of the migrants. But I didn't know about the travel agency. What have you heard about that?
I think it was reported in the Telegraph yesterday, and actually there was a move to have the travel agency, which made the bookings at the Bell Hotel, made a party to the litigation. They failed.
Right.
But anyway, that's just an interesting background fact.
Yes. No, it is, because I think the more we find out about the workings of the inner workings of the Home Office and the government, the more kind of jaw-dropping it is.
Yes. Jaw-dropping and completely incompetent.
Yes, and possibly illegal, apart from anything else. It's absolutely amazing. Andrew, great to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Andrew Tettenborn, their academic and political commentator at the Spectator, has got a piece in the Mail today just saying how difficult this problem has now become. And he, like me, thinks that actually it's not going to be so easy to deal with. You can't just suddenly go, well, all right then, so you're going to chuck them all out of the hotel, so let's just put them in some private residences and everything will be fine. You've got 400 men, young men, right? They haven't got room for 400 young men in the private accommodation sector. They just don't have it. So where are they going to put them exactly over the course of the next 14 days when they have to get rid of them?